is to be out of this room and to be in the auditorium. So thank you for getting the word out. Thank you for bringing your friends. And, you know, some people see the rain as a negative type of thing, but I have to say, you know, in the Old Testament, every time the glory of God showed up, there was always clouds involved and rain involved, right? So that's how I read it. That, you know, it's kind of it's symbolic of the presence of God and just coming to be around us tonight, which is very, very cool. So, and we've said, you know, I've said week after week that our simple message to people that come in and out of this Bible study is that God loves you, right? God loves you, and there's not one thing you can do to change it. And so we just said that over and over through music, through message, and so I'm glad to get to be here. I spent all week long in Birmingham. Anybody ever been to Alabama? Anybody? Yoo-hoo! That their state flower is the axe handle. All right, and so it's I spoke at this thing, and you know, I had like out here in the lobby, I've got books, and so I said, you know, when I got up, I said I've written some books. For those of you who don't know that lived in Alabama your whole life, those are pages with words on them, and like, what? And they're like, he's different. Let's kill him. And so it's good. It was good to get out of there and be here. And so I flew to DFW today, and it took me 4 hours to get from there to here, like with the rain and 6:35 and all that drama. So anyway, I'm glad I made it as well. All right. So has anybody been following the news? You've been following the Boston bombers and the terrorists and all that stuff, and you know, they keep recapping that story. You know, what happened, and you know after they set that bomb off, they said that they drove across town and they stopped to get Red Bulls. Can you believe that? I mean, Harold and Kumar had a better plan than that, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and so they said when they finally arrested the one guy that between both of them they had one gun. I was like, these guys are not real Muslims. One gun? I don't think so. And all right. They're not even real Americans, right? All Americans have more than one gun. At least Texans do, right? And so when they finally found the one guy that was still alive, they found him in a boat. Now, this is proof that they said these guys were stoners, right? And this is proof that they were stoners, right? Because they found this guy in a boat on the dock, right? Only a stoner would pick a boat that was docked as their getaway vehicle. And right. And so they said when they uncovered him, like he was covered, you know, in mud and blood and dirt, which is what we also like to call a carnival cruise. And anyway, but that doesn't really have anything to do with what we're going to talk about tonight. And so I told you last week that, you know, we were wrapping up the series. We've been in this series called Love at the Next Level. And so we said for the last 4 weeks that God has a way that He designed us to love and to be loved, right? That most of us, we've kind of known love at what I call low-level living, right? We've kind of, you know, love has been largely defined by the dating scene and what other people are doing, or largely defined by how we've been loved by people in the past, or had our hearts broken or let down, and that most of that is all kind of love at the low level. And so we said last week, you know, Paul said, I show you still a more excellent way. That Paul, as a pastor, his job was to call people out of that low-level living and get them to rise up and to love at a new level, right? To love at a new level. And that being unmarried in any city in America is a huge deal, right? It doesn't matter how old you are, what you've been through, or what you have or haven't been through, or what you know, whether you've been married or not married or whatever. It's a huge deal, man. It's easy to get caught up in all this culture of, well, maybe I should go out with who my friends tell me I should go out with, or maybe I should get online, right? I always say, you know, the dating online is sketchy, right? Dating online to me is like going to a fast food restaurant, you know, because the picture you see on the menu is never what you get in person, and it's not even close, really, right? And so that's all kind of, you know, love at a cultural level. And so we looked at Scripture over and over again these last 4 weeks that has called us to a higher level. And so I said, we used last week as the text, 1 Corinthians 13, which is the love chapter. And so I ended by challenging us to do what I call live the list. That we take where it lists out all the things that love is. Love is patient, love is kind, it's not jealous, it's not arrogant, it's not brag, does not seek its own, right? Does not take into account a wrong stubborn. And that we would live that list out. Right, that in our relationships, whether you go out on a first date or you're in a relationship, that the goal would be to say, I'm going to take that list and I'm going to live it out. I'm going to do whatever I can to get that through my words, get it out through my decisions. And so I said last week that was the end of it. Well, there's one more. I have one more part I want to add to it, and this is what we're going to do tonight. So we're going to look at this. This is really actually the last part of this series called Love at the Next Level. And you know, in some aspects, relationships will always be a mystery. I mean, especially men and women in a relationship will always be a mystery. There'll be things that we don't ever get about each other. Right? Like, ladies, you need to know about guys. Let me tell you what you need to know about a guy. When you ask a guy, what are you thinking? And he says nothing, he really means nothing, right? That's really what he means, right? We're not making that up. When you're in a relationship with a guy, you just got to know. Let me tell you what every guy is literally thinking. Nothing. We're not thinking anything, right? We're just walking around waiting for SportsCenter to come on. That's it, right? You just need to know that. And guys, gentlemen in the house, when you ask a lady what she's thinking, you just need to know that the answer to that is everything from that present moment to the rest of eternity, right? That's what a woman's thinking. She's working every scenario, situation out, every relationship scenario. She's thinking about all of it at once, right? So there'll always be differences, right? But tonight, I want us to look at the things that both of us can do, that a man can do and that a woman can do to make relationships better, right? So when where all this comes out of is out of 1 Peter chapter 3, and so 1 Peter chapter 2, and these are pastoral letters, all right? So when you get to the back part of the New Testament, these were all letters written to churches, and they were pastoring people on how to do relationships in a practical way. That's why a lot of these epistles contain things about how to treat your boss and how to get along with coworkers and directions about men, women, and marriage. Right? All these guys were pastoring the churches on how to do relationships. And so when you get to this part of the letter, right? Here's this statement, right? This is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21, right? For you have been called for this purpose, since Christ also suffered for you. Now look at this phrase right here. Leaving you an example. Leaving you an example for you to follow in his steps. So at all the verses around verse 21, what he's going to do is he's going to lay out these 4 simple choices that we can make. This is what Jesus did. How Jesus did relationship. That's our model, right? The culture's not our model, right? TV's not our model, right? Fairyland's not our model. I've been in a lot of places where I've heard, women say, I want the fairy tale. I want the fairy tale, right? I had a girl break up with me by letter, and their phrase in the letter was, I want the fairy tale. And I always wanted to go, which one? Right? Which one do you want? The one where the woman eats the apple and dies? You want that one? Right? You want the one where the woman is trapped up inside of a castle so long that she has to grow her hair to get out of the room? Well, I mean, which fairy tale, right? None of them really end all that well, right? They all have a lot of dysfunction and a lot of enabling and codependency within them, right? We kind of had this idea that one day, right, someone's going to kind of swoop in and sweep us off our feet and magically everything's going to work out. Right? Well, the problem with that is that's not a biblical idea. Right? That's a cultural idea. That's a fairy tale idea. But our example is not fairy tales. Right? Our example is the way Jesus did it. And this is why he makes this statement. That Jesus suffered, leaving for us an example that we should walk in his steps. And so what did he do, right? How are we to translate the way Jesus did relationships and get it into the real world, right? Because if we're not careful, the fairy tale is just that. It's a fairy tale, right? And ladies, if you're still hanging on to that, you have to kill the prince in your head and let the man of God live. All right? We've got to get a grip on reality a little bit and say, you know what? I need a better idea of how relationships are going to happen. Let me tell you the problem with fairy tale. The fairy tale freezes everybody up. Because we just think, hey, I don't really have to I don't have to work at anything. I don't really have to work on myself. I don't really have to try to learn what to do, because whoever I meet, man, they're going to be the right one. The right one's going to have all the skill set together. They're going to have everything together. So they're just going to step in and make everything right. But that's not true, right? So in the real world, right, there are no right ones. There are no wrong ones. There are only prepared ones. There's no right person. We're waiting for the right, but there's not a right person. And there's not a wrong person. There's only a prepared person. And so what we're looking for in the context of love at the next level is to enter into a relationship with someone who's prepared to do it. Right? And the fairy tale freezes us up. It makes us unprepared because we just postpone working. We just postpone working things out and learning anything because we think the other person is going to make it all right. Guys do it too. Guys are like, I'm going to meet the woman of my dreams, and man, she's going to do what I want to do, and she's going to say all the right things, and all I got to do is just wait on her. But listen to me now, there are no right ones. Right? And we think we're going to find the right one, and sooner or later that person becomes the wrong one, and then you got to find another right one. And you get into this vicious cycle thinking, well, they were right for that moment, but they're not right forever, and I've got to find somebody else. There are no right ones, and there are no wrong ones. There are only prepared ones. We're either ready for it or we're not. We either know how to do relationships or we don't. And I said last week, a lot of this comes out of my own life because I've been terrible at relationships. I put myself in front of one of the wisest relationship guys I know and asked him to speak into my life. And I said, help me to see my blind spots. Help me to get better at this. Help me to be more sensitive. Help me to learn how to do this. Right? So what we're about to look at tonight is not just something I called out of a book, but it's come out of a lot of struggles and a lot of failure and a lot of trying to figure it out. Right? And to try to do it in real time. And thank God, there are second and third and 10th and 1,000 chances. Right? It's never too late to do it right, but you got to get out of that headspace of looking for the right one, or thinking that someone's the wrong one. No right ones, no wrong ones, only prepared ones. We're either ready or not. So what can a man and a woman do, right, to make a relationship better? What are the common choices? Well, here we go. Right, number one. Here we go. We have to forfeit our excuses. We have to forfeit our excuses. Right? This is what he's talking about. Look at this. Listen to verse 20. For what credit is there if when you sin and are harshly treated, you endure it with patience? Right? He's saying, like, if you made a mistake and you suffer for it, all right, fair enough, right? But if when you do what is right and suffer for it, and you patiently endure it, this finds favor with God. Right? It's one thing to suffer because the choice you made was a wrong choice, right? It's one thing, man, to kind of have the consequences of your choice come back on you. But he's saying, wait a minute, what if you do the right thing and you still get mistreated? Right? A lot of people's reaction to this whole series is, well, what if I love and I don't get anything in return? But that's the basis of love, right? The basis of love is giving without any expectation of getting anything back. That's what love at the next level is. It says, hey, I'm going to love no matter how you react to me. I'm going to always respond to love no matter how you respond back to me. Right? And so, right, he's saying, if you do the right thing and it doesn't come back to you, if you do the right thing and you're harshly treated and you endure it, this finds favor with God. Let me tell you what, here's the common choice. We have to forfeit our excuses. If you're a note taker, you might want to write this down. There are no good reasons for bad behavior. There are no good reasons for bad behavior. Everybody's got reasons. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got something that gives them a little leverage to justify why they say what they say or why they do what they do. But somewhere along the way, they say, you know what? I'm going to give up my excuses. When someone's done something to us, and so we feel justified in kind of lashing back verbally or doing, or maybe you freeze somebody out, you stop talking to them, and that's how you're going to teach them a lesson. And you're like, well, I'm acting like this because of what they did. Everyone's got an excuse. Somewhere in this journey of relationships, we have to come to a point where we forfeit our excuses and say, you know what, I'm not going to let someone else's bad behavior be a reason that I behave badly. I'm not going to let, even though I may have a good reason, There are no good reasons for bad behavior. But, you know, I have to say that all my friends are married, and they all look the same with those rings on and all, you know, and every time I get around them, you know, they're real pushy, you know, they're pushy about marriage, like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? I'm like, hey, I'm not following you around going, when are you going to be alone? When are you going to be single? They're like little multi-level agents. I'm like, do you people win something if I get married? Do you get like a garden weasel or a pack of sea monkeys if I get married by a certain date? Right? And, you know, they're all pushy. And so, but my friends have had their share of problems, and you know, some of them would come to me for advice. You know what my advice has been? Is to take the high road.